hopefully covering some of the bits and bobs that are going on with the general licence debacle and everything at the moment. Obviously Gilo is here as well, but he is too fat for the camera.
Yeah,
so
unfortunately.
we have tucked him out of the way.
I was going to get involved, but it's a little bit too close.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? We don't know Charlie well enough to start
If
covering.
I turn it that way round, mate, you can read the questions.
Oh, that's cool. I can read the questions.
So everybody can read the questions.
Oh no, I'll go this way. I'll go this way. I'll go this way.
As you can see, we've planned this really
We
well.
love the technology.
You are currently rested against a pint of beer. So, yeah. So hello everyone that's joining. So we'll just give it a couple of minutes, let everyone turn up. Yeah. So Charlie,
I knew that would happen. The moment you hit the table, I knew that was going to happen.
It's awful. Right, we're there. We are there. Nobody breathe. Nobody breathe. So Charlie, tell us a little bit about yourself to start with, just so that everyone can work out who you are.
Good, thank you. Well, I present a thing called Fieldsports Britain, which goes out on Fieldsports channel on YouTube. Thanks very much for having me along. We've been around for 10 years this summer, horrifyingly. 10 years. I'm only 28 years old.
I'll go paper round.
And it's been enormous fun. You couldn't do it unless you enjoyed it. I pay a tribute to my incredible colleagues, David, on the Fieldsports channel News Stump, who I'm amazingly rude about every week. He's not such a bad bloke.
Funnily enough, when we met him, we were quite rude to him as well. So
Exactly. Self-fulfilling. And then we've got Jason, who does Fieldsports Ireland, and we've got Meredith, who does the PR and marketing, the social media. We've got James, who does. I mean, it's a bit like an Oscar speech just now. I'd like to thank everybody.
I would just like some world peace as well.
Love puppies. Yeah.
Excellent. So
basically, you know, just to sort of like start getting into the question, when did you first hear about the revocable journalist?
We're very lucky. So we are good buddies with lots of people in the industry, and Dom Holtam, who's editor of Sporting Shooter magazine, sent a message to David and said, "I think you need to see this." And David sent it to me and said, "What do you make of this?" And I said, "Don't talk to me for 20 minutes." And we put it out as news, and it just went from there.
Yeah, we kind of took it as we thought it was a joke. We thought it was.
I thought it was
some
just
sort of
clickbait to wind everybody up and get everyone looking in.
Fake news. A lot of people said that. We had two things actually in recent weeks. There was a story about the French passed a law. If you're caught hunt sabbing, it's a €5,000 fine plus 1 year in prison. Go the French!
Yeah.
Oh yes.
And I never thought those words would ever be spoken by an Englishman ever.
But that got fake news as well. People writing fake news on that.
Yeah.
Then we put out generalised thing, fake news, and then everyone can't believe it. It's actually true.
It's mental. Yeah, so
Horrifying penny drops.
That's it. So why was it not, you know, all of a sudden just appeared? Why did we not hear anything about this?
I mean, your guess is as good as mine. So go back to the middle of February, and Chris Packham, Ruth Tingay, and Mark Avery, the usual suspects, were. They put out a thing saying they're launching a Wild Justice, which they called a crowdfunding campaign. I suspect they got it funded by a crowd of one, which is the guy who runs Lush Cosmetics.
Oh, okay.
But well done them. They funded it. They could afford a lawyer for about 36,000 quid. The lawyer wrote to Natural England. Now, Packham has had a litany of failures. You know, he has built all his money and his success on failing to ban hunting and shooting. We call it in Malta. Failing to ban grouse shooting in Scotland. So what were the chances of him actually succeeding with us? He got lucky. He got very lucky.
Yeah. Would you say that this is like the tip of the iceberg? Is this like a glimpse of the future of how it's going to be with our way of life just permanently under attack?
I think what happens over and over again is we get this really strong sense that they have no idea. Now, there's an agenda. Okay, so Packham and his lot have got this idea that if you can kind of centralise, I know lots of people say they want to chisel away at our sport and ban it. They're being much cleverer than that. If you can centralise land management, if you can take away from the gamekeeper, from the farmer, from the people who traditionally manage the countryside, and make it all the job of the RSPB in orange jackets, then you know you've won, because you can influence the RSPB far more easily than you can influence us lot. And I think that's probably where they're going to go with this.
Would that be like a government thing? Is the government Do you reckon that's their sort of mindset?
They have to bring the government round to this idea, and the government, as can clearly be seen, just have no clue whatsoever. Now, we've had major successes, and when it goes in front of the politicians, grouse shooting the other was debated in Westminster Hall 2 years ago, and this is a Mark Avery debate. They got a petition through petition.gov.uk, and it's 100,000 signatures. It was debated, and it took a few minutes to basically put Packham back in his box. And that, that was politicians going, clearly grouse shooting is good for grouse and for other animals and birds, and so it took no time at all. But that doesn't mean say that you're not going to get lucky as Packham did.
But I would have thought, I would have thought that the detrimental effects from banning pigeon shooting and crows and management to the food chain is much more than
it's one little thing here has a massive onset to everybody, not just the people in the country.
He's banging the table again.
Sorry, no table banging. No table banging.
I think the trouble is people just don't know this. So one of the most telling votes recently was the trail hunting vote of the National Trust. So we've got 1% of the National Trust voted very strongly in favour of it, 1% very strongly against it, 98% do not have a clue, did not vote. And it's those 98% who just don't know. We got a piece running in Fieldsports Britain this week with Kayak Bryn, who's really good at game meat course, very good game chef. He does his game meat courses. Oh, there we go.
Just for you, Kai. Just for you, mate.
Just above the right place to be. And he had this bunch of people, as you'll see on Wednesday, a bunch of people out who were going, they had no idea where this meat came from. They did not know that crows killed lambs, pecked out the eyes. They did not know any of that stuff. And it's for us to tell them. It's for us to be advocates for all this.
How can we, as a community, obviously yourselves and people like ourselves who do social media, but how can we speak? And we're almost preaching to the choir.
Can be a bit of an echo chamber, can't it?
So
how would you advise that we kind of step out of the box?
So things that sort of work are quite unusual. Things you think might not work, sometimes they really work. And we're all, I don't know about you guys, but brought up to believe that if there was a statement that needed to be made, the organisations will make it. And really good things about the organisations now is they're saying, okay, well, that used to be the case, but now you make it. Okay, so Basque is saying every single one of you is an advocate, and what you're doing is absolutely fantastic, because in the world of no, not for you, not for yourself, man. In the world of audience, it really helps if you have that critical mass. But the fact is, you can win the American presidency with a single Twitter account. So
well, there you go. That's it.
Stranger things have happened.
So this march on London, would you think that would raise the profile at all? Will it just make people think, oh look, the Paris tweed wearing who are Henry's marching on down?
Yeah, I think people are past thinking that. There's a kind of hardcore of antis who try and paint us as posh, but the march on London to me is a kind of cry against what's going on. I hope it achieves something. I want it to have a sort of positive as well. So at the moment it's kind of anti-natural England, anti what happened to general license. I completely get that, fully support that. But I wanted to have a sort of positive. This is what we're going to do out of this. I mean, at the end of this whole debacle, we've had a week of it now, week of it tomorrow. We could have done a lot of things. We could have started a political party or a political movement. It looks like we're going to have a march. There's a whole range of things we could still do actually. But I mean, the march to me is probably, or the rally, whatever they call it, is probably the most sensible thing at the moment. But let's see how it goes.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Sort of moving on from that a little bit, and obviously today they announced the GL26.
Yes.
What is your understanding of that?
Back in 2005, no, let's go back in time.
Way back when God was a boy.
In 1979, when I was 11 years old.
I don't believe it, Charlie.
I was. In April 1979, the EC Birds Directive came out. This is basically where this whole thing came from. The general licenses is a function of the EC Birds Directive. And what happened was somebody in the tower block in Strasbourg or Brussels or somewhere like that cleverly wrote into it that you're not allowed to shoot any migratory bird without saying what is a migratory bird. It could be something that hops from one end of the garden to the other. Does it have to cross a border? Does it need a passport? We don't know. And so they said this thing. So basically what they said was every single bird and every single kind of bird shooting, bird trapping is now banned. And you have to enact this, you local governments like the British government. So when the British government came to this, they looked at it and went, oh dear, that's going to be tricky. So they came up with this ridiculous swerve where they said everything is banned except for anybody who's operating under the general licenses, which is everybody.
Nobody text me.
That was obviously a moment. Everything is banned except everybody can shoot everything. That is allowed. Now, the reason we don't need this is we have a perfectly good series of bird acts going back to the 19th century, most of them introduced by bird shooters, which protect loads and loads of species. We amalgamated all those into the 1981 Wildlife and Countryside Act. Lots of people say, well, that was a reaction to the 1979 Birds Directive as well. Well, it doesn't matter. The 1981 Wildlife and Countryside Act has got a perfectly good schedule of what you're not allowed to shoot. Now, why do you need another schedule of what you are allowed to shoot that you're now not allowed to shoot, except you all are allowed to shoot it? Why not just sweep away that? Because we don't need that anymore. I mean, I don't care whether you're run by Brexit or Europe or, the Pope. It doesn't matter. What's important is we're leaving Europe and we can get rid of this whole raft of legislation now. So let's go back to Wildlife and Countryside Act. I would say that was a positive. That would be a thing which a march could possibly say, but that's me talking. Oh, and one more lovely thing about this whole process is it's been completely bottom up. There's been no kind of, one of Packham's great problems is he's a traditional BBC top-down journalist. He's standing there going, you think this, because I'm from the BBC, I'm telling you. We're all going, well, I think that, here's a picture of my lamb, here's what happened to my barley, so that's where we win.
There's a petition going around,
I think it was
80,000 people
or something.
Looking to get Packham sacked.
Oh, no, it's well over 100 now.
Oh, is it? Well over.
So it was really, so on Thursday, actually I got it slightly wrong. On Thursday, there were two petitions. There was one Packham keeper's job and one Packham loser's job. The one Packham keeper's job started about 3 years ago. But it got a little bit of a fillip last week, what with the one about getting Packham to lose his job, and the ones to keep his job just passed 100,000 about 3 minutes before the one just. Oh, can you believe that? But no, it's fine. We're in 48 hours, 100,000 people petition change.org to lose Packham his job, and I'm all for that.
Do you think it's gonna? Do you think that's going to work?
It's not. It's not a petition.gov.uk one. It's a change.org one. So it's toothless.
It is food for thought.
It's food for thought. I mean, if you're sitting the BBC, could you possibly sack him now? Because if you do, it look like you're, reacting to a pressure group as much as if you don't, it looks like you're reacting to a pressure group. Well, I wouldn't like to be in the BBC. Well, I'd never like to be in the BBC.
No.
But it would. That seems to be tricky. I think. Can I just go back to something? So we were talking just a moment ago about the GL26 particularly. So the point I wanted to make was 2005. Labour suddenly said. 1990, the Tories said, general licence coming is perfectly okay, it's just a bit of a swerve, don't worry about it chaps, you'll be fine, you're all shooters, you want, very sort of clubbable, and everyone, alright, that's whatever. And it just rolled over. 2005, Labour government's in there, and they're looking at general licence going, hey, we could ban shooting really easily, we just take this away. And so they came in. They came up with this ridiculous thing saying you are allowed to shoot as long as you scare it first. And I did this piece in the Times where I was sort of holding a magpie and waving a shotgun. I've scared it. Can I shoot it now?
That's it. Yeah.
But actually, weirdly, that is exactly what GL26 says now. I mean, yes. So you've got to dress up in your sort of, your Harlequin kind of clown suit and go out there and.
Unfortunately, Charlie, we both have a set of that. You know what I mean? I got the little shoes to go with it and a little hat. It's beautiful.
Can we ask the viewers, please, to call on them to? They've got to wear this.
The Somerset Hunters Pest Scaring Service is always available.
Competitive rates. Email at
gilojester.com.
I look amazing in it.
Anyway, we're veering off topic now.
Totally believe
this is going to have to be an after 9 o'clock watershed.
Actually, for those who've just tuned in, they're both wearing their Harlequin costume. And if you
and it looks
you
great.
get to see this much of it.
So sort of like moving on with, sort of going back to it. with social media and what have you, and obviously there's a lot of social media ourselves and what have you as well. Is social media a hindrance or a help, would you say, to our community?
For us, I think it's tremendous help. I mean, for the first time ever, we've got no barriers to reaching the world. I mean, what you've got to say has got to be interesting enough for them to want to read it or consume it. But it's still, that's pretty good. I mean, I grew up, as a journalist, and I was always faced with the horror of the print bill, and you couldn't print too much because the paper cost so much and the ink and the distribution. Now you just go and off it goes.
That's it.
And in fact, what you really got to do is try and compress what you're thinking into a nice soundbite.
Yeah, we sort of try and be as PC as possible, but sometimes
incorrect.
Yeah,
we never try to be.
We kind of just go off on a tangent and rant like hell. Slightly more poignant sort of thing. Do you think there is any form of collusion between Tony Juniper and Mark Avery?
So that's the story that's in the Daily Telegraph over the weekend. Exactly. And we have pushed this one. I mean, so Tony Juniper started work on the 23rd of April 2019 as chairman of Natural England. At 3:30 p.m. on the 23rd of April 2019, Natural England just imploded and sent out that stupid. Unless he's an incredibly fast worker, probably not.
Which I doubt very much.
But there is absolutely there's one major link in all this thing. So you've got your three baddies. You've got Ruth Tingay, who's a birdwatcher's hero because she runs raptor persecution. She's an anti-raptor persecution person. You've got a vice president of the RSPB in Chris Packham. You've got 25 years of conservation director of the RSPB in Mark Avery. And over on the other side, the people they are dealing with, you've got Tony Juniper, RSPB blogger. You've got Michael Gove, who's coming up with this huge kind of architecture for what will the countryside look like after Brexit. And some of it seems to be very good, and some of it seems to be frankly terrifying. He's coming up with a new enforcement agency, like a sort of bird police. And who would really want to pitch for that, do you think? Yeah, exactly.
Is this a case of Michael Gove just desperately trying to get some sort of recognition from?
No. Actually, strangely enough, Michael Gove is probably the one with the most to lose. He's probably the one who may lose the most from this whole process. So Michael Gove is currently odds-on favourite to be next Prime Minister because he's because he's the only acceptable Brexiteer. You see, there's a huge parliamentary push against Boris, and who's the other one? Penny Mordaunt. Anywho,
never heard of it.
So you got Michael Gove, and then all the other ones who could possibly do it are all Remainers. They don't want Remainer. They've kind of done that. So he's number one slot, and all he had to do was keep his nose clean.
Trouble.
Not mega. And so what happened? Yes, he's just shown himself to be massively incompetent, and that, unfortunately, is not going to do him any favours.
No. Well, it'd be a shame if something, if he didn't become Prime Minister.
We don't love any politician at the moment. It's almost kind of unkind to single out one of them.
That's it. I mean,
they're all.
Let's just all chuck them in the pond and see who floats.
So moving on from that sort of thing, well, where do you obviously with new GL26 and all the other licences coming in, what do you think the knock-on effects of this would be to the farmers, to the shooters, to the nation in general?
I don't think we're going to get anywhere with this kind of thing. I think this kind of thing is going to keep on happening until we have collectively got the message across. And by that I mean, if you see something that it might look normal to you, maybe you see a lot of dead lambs in your life, put that dead lamb on social media. Maybe you see a lot of crop damage in your life, put that crop damage. Because until the wider public start to understand that Packham's wrong, badgers don't die in their beds surrounded by their grandchildren. The countryside is not put here for your benefit by the railway companies, that kind of thing. Until they get that, they're going to keep on going, I think stopping shooting pigeons is a jolly good idea. What do you think, Jane? That's what's going to happen.
Do you reckon anything's really going to change until, say, obviously, the knock-on effects with like say, without pest control, you're going to have the knock-on effect on the food chain. Obviously, there's going to be less of it, less crop growth. Do you think people will really sit up and pay attention once it starts hitting the pocket?
Well, we know from the Badger Carl that you can wheel suicidal farmer after suicidal farmer in front of the British public, and they don't care. Unfortunately, they're sitting in their comfortable living room price of steak's gone up a bit, price of milk's gone up a bit. That's all they know. And currently, we're in I can't remember what the figures were. We used to spend something like 50% of our household income on food in the 1940s. Now we spend about 11%. So it just doesn't matter. Hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of damage has already been done. Well done, Chris.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, good work to agriculture in the last few days. That cost will be passed on. Some people may go bust. It's just not going to bother them, I'm afraid.
I would have thought, especially as we're going through sort of Brexit and obviously the tariffs that we're going to incur. Oh, there we go.
I didn't think that. You can hear that. There's a crow up there. He's playing a very dangerous game.
But it wasn't eating crops.
Yeah, okay.
We use a gas cannon first.
Yeah, that's it.
He was laughing at. We waved him. Go away. Sorry.
That's all right. Sorry. You threw me church, Charlie. I'm not completely off my chain of thought.
I'm over here.
Oh, hello. Like you said, we're going through Brexit, and obviously the tariffs that we're going to have to start paying for the food we import and crops we import. Wouldn't it be prudent for the government to sit and think, well, actually, hold on, if we don't help our farmers, the cost of food is going to go up, and those who are on the breadline are going to get hurt much more than anybody further up the line.
Yes, and then there's a weird world of government. So, for example, take 1940s. When food was at a premium, we had some big problems there. At that time, we got the Pests Act. Now, it's a pretty hopeless act. It has lots of problems, but it pushed pest control into law, which was really important. It's still under 1951 Pest Act. I believe it is still illegal not to control rabbits if you've got them.
Right,
that's become completely irrelevant now.
No.
So maybe a time of some food scarcity will make a difference. I mean, the trouble with any of the post-Brexit stuff, you just can't call it. It's too complicated. Tariffs, no tariffs. I think this is much more about the attitude of the British people and what they accept and don't accept. And for me, what worries me about the entire process, forget Brexit, all that stuff, is the monstering of gamekeepers. I think for me, a gamekeeper is a guardian of the landscape.
Definitely.
For me, I mean, I don't know if you agree with this, but I would argue a big game hunter is a conservation hero because they're pouring money in. Might not like the idea, but
I would say yes. I would say yes, and certainly I know it's a bit controversial, but obviously you've got Africa, the safaris and that lot, and everybody kicked up actually. But that was an old lion. He'd been kicked out of pride, and he would eventually die of starvation.
And it's the same premise over here with the grouse shooting. The amount of money that one day shoot on that one particular beast or that amount of grouse will support local businesses, so the hotels, the local pub, or the local people. So that one day's hunting is beneficial for all sorts of different people, not just that one person selling the beast.
So you get it, So how do we get everybody else to get it too?
The thing is I mentioned this on a live the other day that when we were younger, all of the kiddies' little books had Mr. and Badger and Mr. Fox, and
everything was fluffy.
They were skipping through Farthing Wood, and it was very nice and very romantic. And I think it's the same premise with lions. And don't get me wrong, they are magnificent, but like Gilo just said, that they have been picked out. They're not just
there's a lion to shoot.
Yeah, that's it.
No,
so I mean, it is conservation, and I speak to friends of mine about it quite regularly, and they're like, "You're wrong, you're wrong," and it's just like, but you're not listening to what I'm saying. You're not taking my point, and it's all valid and it's all factual on board. So you're very narrow-minded to it, and a lot of people think it is just like Gilo said, people going into the countryside, donning tweed, spluttering and coughing and shooting everything that flies.
Well, Jeremy Cox would call the armed drinks party.
Yeah.
Good line, very good line. But how do we get that idea of conservation hero across? I mean, Teddy, on the gamekeeper front, I'm really impressed. We've got two major things, probably more useful to our argument than all the work that all the organisations have ever done. With the greatest respect to all the organisations, D.H. Lawrence wrote Mellors into Lady Chatterley's Lover, greatest gamekeeper ever, and just when it was kind of slightly going off the boil, J.K. Rowling came in with Hagrid. Oh, yes. He's a gamekeeper.
Who I fashion myself on quite nicely.
You are a self-identifying Hagrid, exactly.
Somerset Hagrid.
Somerset Hagrid. I'll be on. Yeah then. Almost. Anyway, should we open up?
Yeah, let's take some questions and see who's saying what. Yeah, that's it. Wet the whistle. Wet the whistle. I saw some comments on a post on Facebook from where Auntie's saying that there is no evidence that crows and magpies attack lambs and take songbirds.
What do you do?
Yeah, this is it. This is it.
Okay, here's one thing. This is a bit mean, and we did this as kind of a joke, but I must say it really annoyed the Antis. It did raise the profile enough to get onto Channel 4. But we took some dead piglets and we dressed them up in baby grey.
Right.
And we put the baby oil on them, and we made the noise of a baby crying, and put them in the pram in the middle of the night in a suburban garden, just somewhere in the suburbs of London. And first fox came 10 minutes. And they took the piglets, and it's amazing footage because it just looks like a baby dragged out of a pram. See the Antis go, but that was preposterous. It was a piglet, of course. Okay, it was.
It's not the same.
It's not the same, but it was a. I mean, I think we've got to get this message through. Really, it's a pity Facebook covers up important photographs of lambs with no eyes, because if they can see that, we would have that on clear.
It's definitely the emotional. You've got to pull at the emotional heartstrings for it really. But it's like one of our farmers. He had his wife and his kids had some chickens. It wasn't a commercial thing at all. 24 chickens. Fox and Vixen got in there, killed the lot. Didn't even take one. Just killed the lot for fun. No. And then
from Alex, do you think the current situation with the general licence will have a positive knock-on effect to other shooting disciplines?
Do you know? I want to ask Alex a question. I mean, if you mean a positive knock-on effect, will it make other shooting disciplines sit up and go, "Oh my goodness, it could be us"? I would say yes, that was very likely. If you mean, I'm not quite sure what you mean. I think yes. In the respect that it's made everybody sit up a bit. I think it works. Yeah. Definitely.
The phone's frozen. Oh no.
Anyone got any questions for Charlie?
I'm not reading them, they're just insults.
They are. Charlie, what does he look like? How many beers did you feed him? What is stopping Fieldsports Britain getting on TV and showing the wider public the benefits of the countryside?
Good question, yeah, very good question.
That is from the Shooting Lad.
Do you get this a lot? Yeah, that was the reaction of the TV executive. When I said to the TV executive, can we put Fieldsports Britain? If you didn't hear it, there's a small child screaming. That's basically how they behave. So there is a, I haven't even found if there is actually a law or a rule against showing things being shot, because the chefs do it. Yeah. We know the chefs do it. Gordon Ramsay did it. I think he starts off by crying and saying he wasn't going to do it, and then bloke from Dorset, he cried, and then he did shoot it, and Jamie just shot it, and what's her marvellous Marco Pierre, he was laughing when he shot it. Yeah, exactly.
He didn't have a machine gun really, wasn't it?
So I mean, it's you're right. It's a lot about sort of backing up the backstory and things like that.
Is it because it's such a poignant subject as in Fieldsports?
It's incredibly emotional. Yeah. I mean, so there's an outfit called the ASA, called the Advertising Standards Authority, who agency. They banned anything to do with guns and shooting, right? And they put it in the same area as porn and drugs, because they call it a demerit activity. Now that's advertising, which is slightly different to broadcast. I did go and see the people from BT when they were launching BT Sport. They said they were sitting in this huge place they got out in Stratford. I mean, they put one of the old Olympic Park places, nice. And this rather kind of crumpled man said, "We just bought 37 hours of the Premiership and realised we've got another 10,000 hours to fill."
Thank you very much.